he struck out Blackburn, who I think had the highest batting average in the NL at the time. I think finally Dodger fans, not finally, but just, it took them a little while, like, what's this guy going to do? We've never seen him before. But when he struck out Blackburn, am I saying his name right? Charlie
Blackman, I believe, but hey.
Blackman. I knew it wasn't Blackburn.
You're fine.
Blackman.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're not worried about the opposing team anyway, right?
And I didn't know the significance of him until later. But we're all sitting there just happy, normal, and the entire Dodger Stadium starts chanting Walker, Buehler, and it took us a while to figure out, what are they doing? What are they cheering? Like, we didn't even realize. And finally, we just stopped and listened, and it was like my mom, my dad, all of us, we looked at each other, and we're like, they are chanting his name. And it was kind of uncontrollable sobbing at that point. It was just, it's hard to put into words.
Hey, how does it feel to have Dodger Stadium, one of the pinnacles of all of sports, not just baseball, chanting your own son's name?
Yeah, I can't really describe that for you, John. It was just, a once in a lifetime moment, and it just kind of overwhelmed us, and we just kind of, luckily, just put down the phones and the cameras and all of that, and just kind of soaked it in, and just kind of enjoyed it as a family. And it was a moment.
Good stuff. Hey, I've got I think one more piece of that debut here queued up to see. Might be the Charlie Blackman strikeout. Let's see.
In his career, looks like they're doing just that. Congratulations to Walker Buehler, and it doesn't come on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It comes on an outstanding 84-mile-an-hour curveball. After setting him up with heaters inside, changes speeds, changes location, and drops it right in there with that great sharp break. A souvenir that will be with him the rest of his life.
That's his first strikeout, saved the ball, and I believe that's Hall of Famer Oral Hershiser on that call. And quite candidly, Walker reminds me a lot of Oral Hershiser. The look, the way he places the ball at the right place. It has quite a bit more velocity than Hershiser did, but unbelievable.
We've heard that quite a bit, and the likeness is uncanny. But the best part about Oral is how wonderful he's been to Walker. He was one of the first people in the Dodger organization to just really fully embrace Walker, and he's been quite a mentor to him since day one. And we're very grateful to him. So it's not only the resemblance and the similarities as far as ball players go, but they've got a pretty neat connection, and Oral has helped Walker with this transition tremendously. We're really grateful to him.
Another mentor out in L.A., Dallas's own Clayton Kershaw. He honed his skills right here in Addison, Texas, at a DBAT academy. I'd have to think Clayton Kershaw has to be showing Walker the ropes a little bit, and not a bad guy to mentor.
No, absolutely. And I think initially there's a little reservation in approaching Kershaw, which I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet, but I think Walker was a little apprehensive at first just by observation, but as Walker has spent more time around him, we have noticed that there's definitely a relationship forming there too. And before spring training, Walker flew down and spent a day with Clayton, kind of learning his training regimen and just kind of soaking up his philosophies like a sponge. And that was something we were very happy to see. Obviously, if you have an opportunity to learn from somebody with a pedigree like Kershaw, that's just an incredible opportunity. And so he's ended up in an organization with folks who are definitely willing to spend time with him and invest in him. personally and professionally, and we're very grateful for that. Great place, great environment to be in and to learn.
Yeah. Hey, this bounced back a little bit to 2015. Walker comes out, and immediately they determine the Tommy John surgery. Surgeries have gotten so much more proficient. Was that due to even going back to 13, 14, 15-year-old baseball pitch counts? I don't know if they looked at it as close 10 years ago as they do today. Can you take our audience through being a pitcher's mom and the concern, like pitching tournament ball weekends, maybe pitching on a Friday and then again on a Sunday? Take us through that and your perspective on overuse of the arm, the ability to correct it with surgery, and then now obviously he's doing great ever since.
Sure, I'm happy to, but you kind of stumbled onto a little bit of a soapbox for me, so if I talk incessantly, please interrupt me. I'm a huge believer that overuse in all of youth sports is a huge problem. I think that you will see in all sports. We've, back, John, when you and I were in high school, the big athletes played 3 sports and played them without too much overlap or concern. You had kids that played soccer, basketball, football, or baseball as one of the others without much problem. When Walker got to Henry Clay and the way youth sports has changed, in the 20, 30 years since we were in high school.
Karen, you're not supposed to tell our age on the air like that.
Uh-oh. Well, I do have a 23-year-old son, so, the math isn't too hard to figure out. But when Walker was going into high school, we basically told him, because he was a very good athlete. He played city football as a quarterback. He was a pretty decent point guard in basketball, but and he even had aspirations to play lacrosse and did so for one season. But we told him, you have to make a choice, because unlike when we were kids, and they are now year-long sports with the season and summer ball and fall ball and winter conditioning. And I've read a lot of literature, read a lot of data about it, and the body is meant to rest. And most top caliber athletes prior to our generation of kids would have an off period, and our kids really don't. And I think it's unfortunate, and I won't go on and on. But
well, it's glad
I think
you bring that up.
Swing back.
I thought it was just a Texas thing, but it sounded like even in Kentucky, 8-10 years ago, it's all changed across the country. And were those discussions, were they difficult though? Was Walker like, hey, I want to do more than just baseball? Or how'd those discussions go? Were there some challenging times?
They were tough initially because he liked the thrill of the other sports, and but I think he even recognized, even as a teenager, that there's just so many hours in the day, and there's just so many masters you can serve, and they were awkward and difficult, but they weren't gut wrenching because they were what they were. The time demands were humongous. And besides that sport, oh, by the way, there's also school and grades and academics. And
lots of pressure on academics, especially for baseball players, because of the 11.7 scholarships that Division I schools can only give. They want to give part academic, part athletic. So a lot of pressure on the academics.
Absolutely. But but the overuse thing kind of came into play for us primarily, and Walker just spoke about this recently, so I don't feel like I'm talking out of school, but when he was 13, he threw 122 pitches, and it was a very cold, rainy baseball game. It was a freshman game, and there was absolutely no reason for him to throw that many pitches. But me, as a single mom sitting in the stands, didn't really know any better at the time, honestly. And there were some baseball dads there that I know and respect, and one in particular was furious with the coach that had occurred. And I was quickly educated as to pitch counts and what the overuse issues are. And from that day forward, my dad and I always either carried a pad of paper or a clicker, and one or the other of us, or sometimes even both of us, in case one of us got distracted, kept a pitch count.
Did y'all have a magic number with your coach? Did you have an agreement with your coach? Hey, when he hits 90, 85, whatever the number was, or depending on the weather, was there an agreement with Walker's coach at the time that, hey, you shut him down?
I'd say that's a little too precise to say it that specifically. However, I will tell you that generally once parents make it pretty overt that they are keeping track of the pitch counts, it's kind of interesting that all of a sudden everybody is aware of the pitch counts. I would encourage your listeners to be very knowledgeable about pitch counts and monitoring those. And even if it's a coach that you respect and think very highly of, and this is not to take anything away from coaches, but I really feel like it is the parents' responsibility in conjunction with the coaches to watch those pitch counts. Because at the end of the day, it's the parents that have that ultimate responsibility. And if they have to intervene or have a pre-game understanding with those coaches, it's their responsibility. Because a kid in that situation, whenever a coach says to a kid, how are you feeling? Kid, you pitch some more. If their arm had detached and fallen on the floor of the dugout, they would say, it's fine, coach, put me in.
Right.
So you as a parent have a duty and an obligation to protect your kid from himself and from coaches who are even, good-hearted, good coaches just making mistakes, or bad coaches who don't know any better or just want to win a ball game. Either situation that you run into, because you're going to have multiple coaches through a kid's baseball career, and you've always got to be knowledgeable and assertive. Doesn't mean you need to be obnoxious or disrespectful, but you just need to be assertive and knowledgeable about what those pitch counts should be for their age, what types of pitches are they throwing, if they haven't grown their underarm hair or their beards, as our doctors used to teach us, they don't need to be throwing curveballs.
Right.
All those types of things. And it doesn't matter if you're just a baseball mom, if it's just you and dad's not around, it's okay for mom to intervene, and there's, respectful and good ways to do that. But at the end of the day, it's your kid's arm. And too many kids are having Tommy John with young teens and even teenagers, in my opinion, is just barbaric. And I think a lot of that is because we just aren't monitoring like we should. So that's kind of a thing for me.
I can tell you're passionate about it, and it's important. I'm glad that you're on, like you mentioned, your soapbox, because there's many parents that were in your same shoes, Karen, that are have a 12-year-old, maybe a superstar pitcher. They don't know any better, right? They haven't heard this yet, and now they're hearing it from you, and maybe you can make a difference. Plus, I see this sometimes too, Karen, that a pitcher will throw a bunch of pitches. He's one of the better athletes, so then the coach doesn't take him out of the game. He moves him to third base or shortstop, and he's still got to throw, right? And that's a mistake too.
No, they should be out of the game, and I think all the literature supports that as well. I've even seen coaches put pitchers and then put them in catcher's gear, after they're done pitching, and vice versa, and that's just terrible. That is not beneficial in any way. And I should add that, none of this came into play, and I didn't become aware of this, when he was 13, we had no idea he would play in college, let alone play pro ball. So, this is even, kids who are interested in youth sports and want to be healthy and productive while they're playing youth sports, even if high school is as far as they go, it's still important. You don't have to have this budding, pro athlete in front of you to protect your kiddo.